Hello and welcome back to SML Total Access. I'm Primetime Zero, 00000, and with me is Dan and Matt. What's going on, fellas?
Not much, not much. I know my own name, so I'm good. I'm glad I'm doing well.
Yeah, funny, funny. Let's move on to first down and move past that moment. First down, what do you guys think as a league, or how do you think the decision making process should go when parting from a member, or what do you think about the current league stance on removing guys? And Matt, we'll start with you.
I look at this two ways. So the first way is when do we remove a guy he's not doing anything bad or toxic, but I look at what does this person bring to the league that perhaps a replacement couldn't bring. Um, you know, in a lot of leagues, just playing your games and playing them on time and not being a cheese ball is good enough, but it's not in the SML. The standard of this league is a little bit higher. And I've obviously never been a commissioner of any league, let alone a successful one. But is this person just going through the motions, playing their games? Are they tweeting? Are they in chat? Are they, not everyone, I understand not everyone wants to be on a show like this or commentate, but are they at least hyping up games or talking about games or streams that are going on? Are they being involved at all? And if they're not, then what are they here for? There's plenty of leagues they could be in where they could just go through the motions and play their games and not chat and things like that. And then I look at the other side. I look at the person who is actually being toxic or saying things in chat. They're really active in chat, but the things that they're saying are bringing the league down. Maybe they're just they're taking shots at owners, or they're saying things that I don't care about this league, or I don't care about this game, those kind of things. So I think I look at it both ways, and just I think it's easier when someone's toxic because it's easier to say when someone's doing something wrong and removing them. It's kind of like from a job. Hey, you're underperforming. You're always late, but hey, you're not necessarily doing anything wrong. You're not like making people mad or anything, but you're just not up to the standard that we have in this league, and I think that's harder to replace someone. Um, but if you're not bringing anything to the SML, why are you here and why are you in a league like this? There's plenty of leagues where you can just play your games and not have to worry about the other stuff.
Yeah, I think Matt brings up a really good point. The SML is about community, but it's also about competition, and not just competition in gameplay because the community is better than the competition, but the community part of it, you got to be competitive enough to say, I want to invest in this. That there might be another owner down in the Primer League that's putting in the work, putting in the effort, very active, good with content, good in the community, and they might just come take your spot because you're not living up to, as Matt called it, the standard. And being a Steeler fan and Tomlin fan, the standard is the standard. And so we got to look at that and got to evaluate that. And I know like right now, hey, we're in the summertime and it gets difficult. It gets hard. The weather's nice. People are doing other stuff. But at the same time, there is a level of, I respect the other person that's playing as well, too. So I might be busy or I might have something going on, but the other person doesn't. And I need to show up. I need to play my game. I need to play it with as much willingness and eagerness as I did before because they're putting in their time. So it's almost like a shot to the league when you just say, oh, well, if I can make it, I can make it. Or, oh, well, it's the summertime and I'm just going to, kind of halfway do this. And, I'm going to chew clock in the third quarter because I want the game to be over. Like, no, like put the effort in because you respect the other person's time. So that kind of bothers me a little bit when I start seeing that. And I think that, causes some questions about whether or not they should be in the SML.
Yeah, it's tough, when you evaluate them from a commissioner's point of view, and some in the league or some listening, and some on the show do have that experience. And I probably go at it with the view of giving people more grace than what a lot of people would or what some people would, and especially for the guys who aren't necessarily incriminating themselves, like Matt said. They're just kind of here and they're existing and they're not contributing. And, when you look at the primer, and I know I have 20 guys plus that, could be a net gain if I added them, maybe, opposed to, let's say, our least contributing or least best member in the SML. But at the end of the day, I struggle with removing people. I do, and I think that as a commissioner, that's good and bad. From a good point of view, I think everybody knows that. Hey, I'm gonna have a fair shake before before I leave. Like Prime's probably not gonna kick me just because, which that's good. But from the bad sense of view, maybe it slightly diminishes. Maybe we could have a marginally stronger league by adding guys here and there. But it's important to me that I know what I have, and obviously we've seen it with other league decisions, whether it's GroupMe or Discord. I like that sense of security and sense of loyalty, knowing that hey, I'm not going to add this guy, and he's not going to go do something crazy and try to whether it's not necessarily nuking a team, but stirring something up in chat, or when they get to the bigs, they go crazy, or they try to tear down everything we've built. So I think as you get bigger, you have to really be careful. Every decision becomes very crucial because it can really affect the league, and so that sense of security and just having a guy to show up, with his lunch pail and do his job. I don't necessarily hate that, but to Matt's point, I think they need to do some self evaluation as well and be like, okay, do I need to step it up, or do I need to take a step down in primer, and hey, maybe I need to work on that, or until I'm not as busy. I don't know. It's a delicate and tough situation, and I think all leagues go through that. And hey, I err on the side of grace. Some people get frustrated with that, but I like people at the end of the day, and I kind of like dealing with those problems, as weird as it sounds.
Hey, Prime, real quick, off the top of your head, what's one or two biggest pet peeves that you have though for owners listening in the SML? Like, what are some things that we should just avoid altogether? I mean, I joked with you before about people dancing on people, like that really kind of sets you off. But what are some of your biggest pet peeves?
Yeah. I hate like when we have a known issue. Like let's say, and it's one thing to joke and jest. Like I'll do the Dan Cheese thing or whatever, but we'll joke. But let's say there's a known issue. I hate when people go on streams and they start talking about it, or they go in chat and be like, all right, this guy, he's doing this again. Oh boy, like here we go again. Like, okay, first of all, this guy, we're working with this guy. This isn't brain surgery. We're not doctors here. If this guy, yes, it's annoying. Yes, if he violates something, we're going to try to work to fix it. But let's give this guy some leeway. This is a Madden league. Let's give the guy a chance. He's just trying to have a hobby. He's trying to have fun. And maybe he's just naturally kind of a screw up. And we're trying to have some patience with him. I mean, I just hate when people start popping off on streams, especially. That's a huge pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, so someone like has a quote unquote history of rolling out, and then the first play they roll out, and the other person's flipping out right away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stuff like that. It's tough because we all have emotions, especially in the competitive setting of games. But I think it would be healthier, as hard as it is, just to hey, trust the process. Let's do it, and know that even if it doesn't seem like it, maybe there's a long-term plan of hey, July is coming up, August is coming up. Somebody may or may not be on the chopping block that you may or may not expect, and just be patient and let's just wait and see. So,
and one thing I want to add real quick, because Dan brought up a good point. I understand in the summer the weather gets better, and with families and stuff, I understand. But I'd be this way even though I don't have a family. Once the real life Super Bowl was over, Madden just kind of lost its luster. I by March I'm done. But you know what I did? I joined League in March. The SML makes no surprises that we're going to play from when Madden comes out till the next one comes out. If you don't like that, you don't have to be here. Join a league that ends in March or April or whatever. I hate that so much because it's like you're complaining about something that you're voluntarily doing, and I don't get it. This is supposed to be fun.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. It's weird. Hey, let's move on now. 9 minutes into the podcast, and we're just hammering away at topic one, but it's definitely a fun topic. Topic two, Dan, we'll start with you. Who's out in the AFC? Let's say season's over, two or three advances. What team's going to be out?
Yeah, so this is really fun. We've had some pretty competitive conferences, and they've gone to the last wire. The NFC has done that a few times, and have got to do like gymnastic tiebreakers to figure it out. But this one's unique in the fact that we might have potentially a 12-5 team in the AFC not make the playoffs. I think that's more than likely because I think last time I checked, there's at least 3, maybe 4 teams at 11-4, with one of those teams being out. So, Meats, I believe, still has you Prime, right? Not this advance, but the next one.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's going to be a big game for Meats. I don't know if he can get over that hurdle. That's going to put him in some trouble. I think, Matt, you got one more tough game, right?
I do have Dom. Yep.
Yeah, Dom, and then I think Bomber's got Clink and QP, and then so obviously QP's got Bomber. So I think those are the key games right there to watch. I think if Matt can run the table, if somehow Meats can beat Prime, if either QP or Bomber wins their games, then they're in the clear, and then one of those other teams is out. So man, I think those are almost legit playoff games, and it's gonna be fun. I would say Meats is the lesser of the players right now, but you know what? Matt beating Dom's going to be tough, and Bomber, going 2-0 against Clink and QP is going to be tough. So even though Meats, it might be the lesser of the guys, he might get in. So right now, though, I'm going to say Matt's going to be out just on tiebreakers. I think that's going to hurt him the worst.
Matt?
Yeah, I agree with Dan. I think I'm out just because I don't see myself beating Dom, and I don't see Meats beating Prime either. But at the end of the day, we end up with the same record. Now, I lose a head-to-head tiebreaker between Meats and Bomber both, but if it comes to a 3-way, the head-to-head is thrown out the window, and I think it goes straight to conference. So I think it could get a little bit interesting, especially if maybe RD slips up. I'm not looking at his schedule, but I think it's considerably easier than the rest of ours. So I think it's me, but it's definitely me or Meats. Bomber's going to do what he has to do to get in. He's got the team, he's got the talent. I think Meats getting that force win over Dump was huge because that would have been Dump's Super Bowl. He hasn't lost to him this entire cycle, according to Dump. I say that because I never fact checked it. So he probably lose. I would say there's a good chance he loses that game, just because Dump would be so pumped up for it, even though he's a 7-7 team. So I think it's going to be me. I think Meats he loses to Prime, but I think he's got 2 other cupcake games. I've still got NYT, who, I mean, say what you want, his record is not an indication of how talented he is with that team. His work, he's been taking some forced losses. That's a really good team. Yeah, that's gonna, even though he's not got a great record, that's gonna be a battle for me. I've got Duck as well. I can't see myself winning all 3. I think I drop first Dom, but it's gonna be interesting. It's nice to see. I think last season it was like 1-7, and the AFC was like pretty much solidified, unless someone really fell off. So I think it's me. If it's not me, it's definitely me. I think Bomber, even though we have the same record, he's in.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially looking at those matchups, and I tend to think it'll either be Jacksonville or the Chargers who missed. But if Bomber if he slips up against Clinky today, and I think they play Saturday too, all of a sudden then he's got a QP down the pipeline, and you could be looking at a 10-6 Browns team, and that probably does it. And it really comes down to if Clinky's come prepared, and if he pulls off that game, which I think the spread is very tight on that game, you could be seeing a shocker, maybe Cleveland being in a tight spot. I think, though, it's probably going to be the Chargers find a way to choke, and honestly, because I would get off on knocking Meats out of the playoffs. So yeah, I think it'll probably be the Chargers, the Jaguars. But if Cleveland loses today, I change my pick to Cleveland being out.
You bring up a good point with Clink. He's gotten really good at the dive tackle. Last time I played him 6-7 weeks ago, and he was on his game with that dive tackle, and we all know that's the way you beat Bomber is stop Chubb. So I think you're right, Prime. I think this is almost a pick 'em kind of game, and I think it's going to be very intriguing.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. I'm also holding out hope that I can get that number 1 seed. It's going to be tough, but Matt, you need to do good for Daddy and get that knockout DMUs for me.
He's going to get my best effort, that's for sure. Now, knowing that, so
great, thanks, Matt. So moving on to third down, what is going on in the NFC? The not cool, freaking sucks conference. Matt, we'll start with you.
If you ask me what happened to the AFC to the NFC, my answer is nothing. This conference isn't good. It hasn't been good. We've seen it's been a cycle with the NFC. There was I don't know if it was last season, or the season before, where like the entire NFC East had a good record, I think, and they were all 10 wins or something. They were all jostling for playoffs or whatever. They played like the AFC East and the NFC West. That's why, and that's the cycle that the NFC is in. Are they playing good divisions? Well, then most of them are bad. Are they playing weak divisions? Well, then most of them are looking good. And it's just been that way. It's the Dan and Faz show. Uh, it, Clink has made amazing strides. Dan mentioned the dive tackles, not something that I've noticed, but obviously you played him. But he's solid defensively, a really good defensive player, which we don't have a lot of that in the league. That's why I've always hyped you up, Prime, because I think you can do that consistently.
Thanks.
And that's an important step. Outside of that, I'm not Paulie. I'm sorry, he's going to come into the game. He's going to do the same thing he does every single game. You're not going to beat the great players that way. Doink is 10-4, and he's a great example of what I just said. He has 10 wins. How many of them do you think are over teams with a winning record?
I don't know.
I'll spoil it for you. 0.
Oh no.
It's just the way it is. Dump is 7-7. I don't know what happened to him. Future, that team just got old on him, I think, and he just didn't really do anything to fix it. Finn's is 7-7. He's kind of fighting for a playoff spot, and if that's happening, it's just a week. Look, DW's 6-8. Last season he was like a Cinderella, or a season I can't remember when, but again he was playing that weak schedule. So I don't think anything happened to the NFC. I think it's a bad conference that just doesn't have an easy schedule this season, and maybe next season they get an easy one and they look a lot better.
Yeah, the NFC has been pretty disappointing. I think going into it, post blip, there was some hope. I think the three guys I had the most hope in were Paulie, Dump, and NYT, and I think all three of them have just kind of hit their ceiling and then just faded. NYT, hey, much credit to him. I know his work schedule's busy. He never complains. He gets his games in, so I give him a lot of credit. But those three guys just haven't gotten over the hump. Matt mentioned Doink. He's kind of not much high expectations, but played pretty well. But again, just kind of he's plateaued. And then Clinky's got probably the one opportunity to kind of break into the big two in the NFC. I think he still has that potential, but I don't think for the rest of this cycle, I don't see anyone else. It's going to be me and Faz and maybe Clink, unless there's a huge upset, because just those other guys have fallen flat.
Yeah, and just to echo, you had hoped that somebody would rise to the occasion. You kind of see it a little bit with D Muse now, even though he's not quite there. He kind of shows glimpses of rising to the occasion. Whereas in the NFC, there is nobody like that who's just they see the ball and they're going to take it and then they're going to run it with it. That's just not happening. Paulie showed some flashes, I feel like, early on in the cycle. Yeah, Doink showed some flashes early on in the cycle. Yeah, just none of these guys really realized what their quote-unquote potential, or maybe we had their potential higher than what it really was. NFC is a two-horse race, and it's going to possibly, if Fast wins the conference this year, it'd be 4 straight seasons where he's won the conference. So, the NFC is just kind of the punching bag for Faz and Dan. Kind of disappointing a little bit, actually. Let's move on to the 4th down. SML, what if? Dan, what happens if the blip doesn't happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a great time of the year to kind of look back and see some of the things. What would have happened if this would have happened or that would have happened? I think that to use Matt's term, the Big Five remains the Big Five. Yet it's just turns into the AFC. Even though the AFC is the dominant conference right now, it was even more dominant before, and that divisional round AFC Championship games would have been just unbelievable bloodbaths to see who would have gotten out of the AFC. And then the NFC, QP played well with the Lions, but the problem was he was gonna the game changed, and so the game made a big change between really season 2 and into season 3. They nuked the home run post, beat the cover 3. They kind of added in, or the dive tackle started taking over. So some big things started happening, and I look at QP's team with the Lions. He just didn't have the talent. I mean, Herbert wasn't going to be the guy he needed. He didn't have the talent. I think the talent on the Chiefs, the talent on the Bills, the talent on the Browns. I would have had trouble because I didn't have the talent on the Chargers. I think that talent of those three big teams with those three big owners running them, I think would have been a huge factor. And I think Bomber, Prime, and Faz, you guys probably would have had more Super Bowls than you currently do now.
Matt?
Yeah. Gosh, it's such a loaded question. There's so many things that might. It's weird because I just don't even think of the blip anymore because we're so far past it, and we did such a good job. But I think the AFC is obviously the clear focus point with all those good players in it. I kind of looked at some teams individually. Someone like Meats, who's found some success, and recently, he got that big playoff win over Bomber. If he stays as the Dolphins in Faz's division, I don't think he ever has a winning record, let alone makes the playoffs. I think the playoffs are just craziness over there. I think Faz gets over the hump. I think with Josh Allen, I think he eventually probably wins multiple Super Bowls in Buffalo there. I think that team is much more fitting to him than Carolina. When I go to the NFC, boy, it's kind of the same NFC that we have now, but just one person. But I'm gonna have some fun here. I think Dump wins a Super Bowl if the blip doesn't happen. And here's why. Because yeah, he's not doing very well in Philly, but he had the Cardinals, and that team is really good. It will make a decent player good. It will make a good player great. And he made the Super Bowl. He got season 1. He got beat by Bomber, but he only has to beat QP, and we've seen QP struggle against a lot of different types of caliber of opponents. With the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, that Detroit team, yes, with Herbert, he built it really well, but I think that's all Dump has to beat, and then he's pretty much in the Super Bowl, and then it's just one game, whoever comes out of the AFC. So I think he probably steals one, and if the blip doesn't happen, I think Dump has a Lombardi.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because I kind of thought that QP was going to win or get to the next 5 Super Bowls, honestly. So I just think that that Lions team was just at the cusp of what he was building, and he just got a good receiver and his quarterback, and it was all kind of coming together for him. And Swift was starting to get abilities. I thought the QP was going to really run the table there in the NFC. In the AFC, man, I wish my last season, right before the blip, I was so proud of the run I had because years ago I was really dialed in, in the zone when I would just blow people out, and I had never felt that way before. Sense really, and then I blew out Spades, I blew out Faz, I blew out Bomber, and then I ran into QP who got me. But it would have been fun. I was really starting to, I think, come into my own with the Chiefs team. It would have been a bloodbath. I think that Faz and I were starting to get in a rhythm. Dan his team just, I don't know. I just don't know if it would have been able to keep up with Freight Train, Chubb, Mahomes, and Allen. That would have been tough on Dan, but game studying and just being prepared could neutralize that maybe. I don't know. I think it would have just been a toss-up between those teams. But it's certainly fun to think about. I would like to think the Chiefs would have had about 3 Lombardis right now, though. Let's move on. Extra point. Matt, what do you got for us?
Real quick on that last topic, my last note: Finns would have gone 0 in the AFC West.
No doubt.
I don't think there was some talk about that, and no.
That's assuming if RD is still the Raiders?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he probably could have stole one.
From Doink.
Who was the Raiders after? Was that Doink? I think
that was Doink.
From Doink.
Yeah, he did beat Doink once.
Yeah. All right, the Map 5 or the Cursed 5. I don't know. The name change may be pending here. We'll see if the curse continues. But at number 5, I've got QP. Hey, what can you say? Every time I just fall off the bandwagon with this guy, he impresses me. And he's just he's kind of like Mike. In the Survivor, we say don't pick Mike and don't pick against him. It's just week to week. Sometimes it's hard to figure out. But QP, he's going to be right there in the thick of things. He got a big win over RD in a game that was. I felt like we got shorted there because it was so close to advance. They had to chew some clock, but I felt like QP probably would have won that game anyway, the way it started. So QP's there. Prime, I got you number 4. I think the tough loss to Dom, but again, you just do things that other people don't, and that's just you play great defense. You have an identity on that side of the ball. I don't ever feel like you're scrambling around trying to find a defensive scheme or play to call. And I think in the come playoff time, you're gonna be focused. You're gonna be dialed in. At number three, I've got the guy who beat you, and that's Dom. Dom still has that really ugly loss to Colt. That really just is just hard to get over. His other loss, I believe, was to QP, so I'm not holding that against him. But I've got Dom there. At number two, I've got Dan the man. 13-2. I've said time and time again that loss to Tiny. I don't hold it too much against him because of the dev game. He lost a tough one to Faz, but hey, that's his only real opponent, and they're going to meet again at Week 18, which I hope is for the division. That's going to be a fantastic way to end the SML season. And then I do anticipate they'll play in the playoffs, and that's the game that matters. And yeah, I mean, this is the first time I think I've ever had this guy at my number one spot, but he's more than deserving, and it's Faz. In my opinion, he's only got one loss. The second loss that you see on Neon is a straight sim, I believe, to Future.
Yep.
And the way their schedules are, I certainly don't fault Faz for not. I'll hold a force against you if you can't schedule. But I know Faz can schedule, and I think they just didn't meet up, and it happens. But big win over Dan. His only loss is to me. Very early in the season, he has come through and he has cleaned house. And so Faz is my number one spot. I think he is the favorite to win the Super Bowl in a lot of eyes, and I'm very curious to see how that Week 18 matchup goes between him and Dan on my number two spot.
Yeah, it's kind of
that loss.
Go on.
Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was just gonna say, and we could talk Dan Faz. QP, I feel like for a second there this cycle, it looked like he was really gonna grab hold of things, and he was scary, but something's happened with QP. I don't know. That one season he lost to D-Muse throughout that season and then in the playoffs and since then. I know he just made last Super Bowl, but I don't know. He doesn't quite have that aura that he did. And I don't know. Maybe it was just me mentally because he had beat me a few times. I know I beat him the last 2 times, but when I see QP, and I still think he's a top 5 player, top 3 player, but he doesn't quite have that aura about him, and maybe it's just a confidence thing for me. But I don't know. I just wanted to highlight that.
No, I was going to add that forced loss, that sim loss to the Saints for Faz actually it was huge because it actually makes Week 18 relevant. If we would have finished with the same record because I lost to Tiny and he beat Tiny, he would have automatically gotten the division. So now that division's up for grabs in Week 18, which again was also the 1 seed and could be a big factor as well too. So it's going to be interesting. I've noticed Faz getting a little full of himself, getting a little confident, getting a little cocky a little bit. So we'll see if he can ride that wave of being the top dog, and if he can beat the Mat 5 curse, it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, it will be. Faz got himself a little girl now, winning some games. He's feeling himself, but bigger they are, the harder they fall. That was SML Total Access. That was Matt. That was Dan. I'm Prime. Guys, thanks for listening. Thanks, guys, for coming on. And until next time, it's going to be playoff time, I think. See you around.